This dream comes to the ones who wait, so tell me, babe, like, what's the delay?
She wanna post me all online, I'm bait now, so I can't show no face.
Okay, lock in, let's lock in. So I was talking to my friend recently, and he was telling me that he's still getting these thoughts that he's a loser, and his mind is telling him this, even though he knows that that's factually not the case anymore. He's literally like a 6-foot chad. He's like 6'2", he's 80 kg, he's fucking jacked, and he's making mad money. But yet his mind is stuck in this negative version of reality, this past version of reality. You know, he once was a loser, at least that's what he considered himself to be, but now his mind is giving him the same thought again and again, even though that's clearly not the case anymore. He was a victim of like chronic negative thinking and negative thoughts and negative self-talk, and that's the worst of all of them. I need you to realize how important this is. You're making like hundreds, if not thousands of decisions a day. Let's say this is you, and this is every single possible decision you can make, and they all lead to different realities. And then, you know, this decision also will bring a bunch of decisions after it, and again and again and again. And if we extrapolate this, like literally by the end of the day, based on the decisions you make, you will have an entirely different reality than you had in the morning. And the largest shareholder of how good the decisions are which you make are your thoughts and your emotions. You might think it's information, but let me tell you that it's not even close. Because if we're being honest, a lot of times, especially people who struggle with this thing, this negative self-talk kind of thing, you already know what the fuck you should do. You already know the task you should do in your business. You already know how to go and approach a girl and like fucking chat her up. You're just not capable of doing it. For whatever reason, you just can't do it. This is why, you know, stuff like momentum and mindset and confidence and stuff like this is so important, because this is literally all that matters in life. It's like passive income for decisions. It's like passive income from literally every area of your life, because if you're always making the correct decisions, you don't even have to be too smart to get what you want from life. The problem is that this is impossible to nail if you're constantly being reminded of every single shortcoming you have, or every single shortcoming you had in the past, which might not even be true right now. So how do we fix this? I used to have the same exact problem. When I got enrolled into school, I was the smallest kid. I was the youngest kid in my class. And I kept telling myself shit like, I'm the smallest because, you know, it's just genetics and it's just the way it is and this and that. And, you know, later I came to think of it, if I just channeled 1% of the energy I spent on complaining into getting into the gym, it literally would have taken 1 year for me to go from the weakest in the class to the strongest. And, you know, I did this, and, you know, fucking hell, like I'm bigger than pretty much every one of my peers right now, and that's not because I'm fucking gifted genetically or anything like that. It's just because I managed to control my emotions and I changed the way I think of things. Even back in this state, when I was like fucking 10 years old or something, I knew what I needed to do. I knew that if I ate well and I did a few push-ups, I would gain muscle. And of course, I'm not saying every 10-year-old should be in the gym, because that's just not what 10-year-olds do, so I'm not shaming myself. Maybe I should have taken a more recent picture than this. But what I am saying is that it wasn't a knowledge gap for me either. I just chose the victim card, and that only came with a bunch of negative repercussions, because if you go even deeper into this identity of being this loser, weak, frail, slow version of yourself, that's what you're going to reinforce in your reality, and that's the kind of thought you're going to be getting. I genuinely believed that I was worse than these few people, fundamentally, and that's why I chose to channel all of my energy into video games. I had zero status, zero respect from my peers, my grades started declining, and I was only putting actual efforts into Minecraft and League of Legends. And I ended up getting fucking master rank in League of Legends, but let's be honest, it doesn't matter, does it? No one really fucking cares. And long story short, I did end up changing. I did end up going to the gym, starting my business and getting better grades and whatnot, but it took a while. And even after I started doing these things, I still had these kind of negative thoughts. I was programming myself so deeply to feel like this and have this as my identity that even when I was trying to put in the reps to improve myself, to go to the gym, to work on my business, it was an uphill battle the whole way. So this is what I did to change it all. I want you to imagine your mind as a stream of thought, where in the stream, you know, you have these thoughts that are kind of flowing down the river. So if we were to imagine I'm ugly, it just goes down this river until, you know, it kind of evaporates and eventually the thought is forgotten. Same thing with I'm fat, I don't deserve happiness. All of these are thoughts that are, you know, flowing down the stream of thoughts. This is what you call your mind. And the problem with this is that people tend to not realize that they are actually not their minds. Let's take a step back. If I were to ask you the question, what are you? Who are you? What would you say? Now, the surface level answer is that I am my name. I am Daniel Curtis, that's who I am. Now, that begs the question, if that wasn't your name, would you not still be you? You would still have the same experience, you know, you'd just be called different names. So realistically, you would still be you, You just be of a different name. You can legally rename your government name, so you're clearly not your name. The second thing you might say is that I am my body. You know, I am me. Look at me. I look in the mirror and that's who I am. Well, okay, maybe that's a bit more valid, but if we were just to ask the question again, if we chopped off your hand, would you still be you? You'd probably answer, well, yes. And as a matter of fact, if we look at it biologically, every cell you have, every few years, literally every cell you have gets replaced. You don't have a cell right now that you had 5 years ago. Biologically, you are an entirely different organism made up of carbon that exists on this plane of reality. So you're clearly not your body either. We can't say that. And if you were to say that, oh, but I am my brain and my heart and stuff like this, you can get a transplant of those things nowadays in physics. It's literally possible. You don't have anything in your body which is you. You might say that I'm my thoughts or my memories or my experience and getting into the mind. You know, you might be one with your mind. But that's also flawed on many reasons, and I'm going to tell you why. Maybe you're of the opinion that I am my thoughts, but if you think that you're rich, are you going to become rich? You're clearly not, so you're not your thoughts. You're literally not your thoughts. You can have the thoughts that I'm rich. You're not going to become rich automatically because of that. That's just a fact. You might say that you are your memories, but if you experience something different, you'd still be pretty much the same person. As a matter of fact, most things which you experienced, you've already forgotten about. If I told you to remember an instance from 2018, you'd probably say something like, oh, I had my graduation, oh, Travis Scott dropped this album. But even then, you only remember like fragments. If you think about it, every single day has 24 hours, which has like, 3,600 minutes or something like that. Shit ton of minutes, a shit ton of days. And, you know, if you multiply that by 365, pretty much there's a long, long, long time of existence, which compiles a year. You probably remember like 10 seconds of 2018, if not 20. That isn't a lot. Our minds are so selective with our memories and experiences, and even those which we can recall aren't really accurate. You know, police have stopped taking eyewitnesses seriously, because what we experience to be true is 100% experienced through our lens of reality. That isn't an ultimate objective experience anymore. You know, a bunch of times people like add things in retrospect. I have some experiences which I don't actually know if they're true or not. That's the fact. A funny example of this is back when we were playing Fortnite, we kind of had this competition between us when we played solos, who could get the most kills. And I remember one of my friends got 12, and I haven't got 12 yet, so I got really, really mad. And one day I actually got 15. But the thing is, my friend also got 15 like a few days after that, and we were like, oh my god, you know, who's going to get the next one? And to this day, I don't know if this is true, but maybe I fantasized about it so much, I visualized myself, because, you know, if you're thinking about something, logically you're going to dream about it. I was dreaming of getting this 18 kill game. And again, to this day, I don't fucking know if it happens or not, if I got it in like random, like regular Fortnite solos, because I just have this memory that maybe my brain constructed it, or maybe it happened once, but I kept remembering this, and, you know, I know where I got the final kill and stuff like this, but I don't know if it actually happened. That's just the nature of this experience. It's just true. And although this isn't trauma, a lot of trauma survivors have very similar stories. The therapist and author Bessa von der Kolk has a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and he talks about this quite a lot, where the trauma survivors that went into his office don't actually have the experiences ready to recall oftentimes. Their mind literally forgets their trauma, the most significant experience of their life, their mind ends up forgetting. So again, you're not your thoughts, you're not your memories, you're not really any of these things. So the question is, what the fuck are you then? If you're not your name, you're not your body, you're not your relationships, your thoughts, your memories, and I could keep going, what are you? Is there one true thing which we can say about ourselves? The only truthful thing which we can actually say about ourselves is that I am awareness, or I am consciousness. Or, you know, if you want to be a bit more spiritual, you could say that I am light, I am infinite, I am God, even to an extent. But I'm just going to go with these because that's the type of video that I'm trying to make. And just as you can watch a stream, a river, you know, carrying a few twigs, a few branches down, and a few rocks, and you can watch it from a bench afar, you can do the same thing with your thoughts. The problem is that people treat their thoughts as if they are in the river. And as, you know, oh, I'm ugly just flows into my consciousness. Oh, that must mean I'm ugly. They identify with the thought. Oh, I'm fat. That's what's here right now in the river. Oh, I'm fat. Oh, I don't deserve happiness. That's where I am right now. Oh, must be true. But the thing is, again, just as you can observe a stream from afar and you can see, oh, that's a nice rock that's being carried down the flow. Oh, that's a nice branch. Oh, I see a duckling. You can do the same thing. You can sit on a bench and you can actually just fucking watch. That's a pretty atrocious bench if you ask me. But this is you. And you're just watching. You're just watching this and you're like, oh, I got the thought that I am ugly. Oh, I got the thought that I'm fat. Oh, I got the thought that I don't deserve happiness. That's a very, very big difference. Do you feel this astronomical difference? One of us could be literally saying, I am ugly, and one of us could be saying, I feel ugly right now. Or even better, I got the thought that I am ugly. I thought that I am ugly. I right now, I think I have the thought that I am ugly. I see this in my mind. It doesn't mean you have to identify with it. It's a very big difference. Do you understand how big of a difference this is? This is your mind, your stream of thought, and this is your consciousness. This is the observer, if you will. You don't exist as your mind. You don't need to identify with every single thought you get. You can just observe it. Instead of saying, I am fat, you can say, I'm getting the thought that I am fat, or maybe I feel fat. Choosing number 2 and, saying, I feel this, or I got the thought that I am this, is so much healthier for you because now you are not saying something that is literally factually untrue. Step number 1 is you need to observe your thoughts because listen, if you do this, you are already ahead of 99% of people. People don't do this as a whole. People go through life and they identify with every single thought they're having. They have the thought, I'm hungry. No, you're not hungry. You're just fucking consciousness. That's the only thing you can say. You might feel hunger right now. Your body might be sending ghrelin signals to your brain if we want to be a bit autistic about it, but you're not hungry. You're just feeling hunger. Now, of course, I still use these expressions. I still, I'm hungry, when I'm talking to my friends, because I'm not going to be stupid about it, but I don't really identify with this line of thinking anymore because I am not hungry. I have the thought that I'm hungry. I get that my brain is getting these signals because there's not much food in my stomach, but it's very, very different because if you choose to identify with these things, your identity will start to get updated, and that is what's going to influence your choices in life. You, as you are right now, you are not broken. You cannot be broken. You are whole because you are consciousness. Now, the body which you're in might be unhealthy. The mind might be flawed. The mind might be being fed, harmful materials. Your brain might have its neurology fucked up. Your brain chemistry, your hormones might not be entirely intact. But you are very, very normal, okay? That's a very important thing to just get straight. If you understand this, there's nothing wrong with you, but, your attributes, the things which your consciousness is observing, like your mind, your body, etc., might be, slightly flawed and abnormal, then we can start to improve it. Step number 2 is evaluate. So once you've observed the thought and you caught yourself having this thought that I am ugly, you can be like, wait, hold on. Am I actually ugly? Sorry, I'm kind of lagging right now. You can kind of think, am I actually ugly? You might have a pros and cons list here, and you might want to write everything out that you kind of feel about this statement. I'm not going to write a bunch of things out, but you might want to list these things. You might be like, well, 5 years ago, this kid did bully me, and he did say that I was ugly. But 5 years have passed and I do think I'm a bit more handsome. I look in the mirror and I'm kind of more impressed by myself. Also, I've been getting looks from girls recently. These kind of 2 girls looked at me when I was at Lidl a few days ago. Also, I've been taking a lot better care of myself. I've been grooming, I've been brushing my teeth 3 times a day, all that. But let me give you an example on why this happens in the first place. I want to ask you the question, what's on each of these pictures? One of them you might describe as this is a picture that is, of the outside. You might say that it's a field. You might say that it's grass. You might say that it's trees. And this one you might say that it's inside. You might say that it's a bedroom. You might say that it's you'll probably say that it's a bedroom. I mean, it's a fucking bedroom, okay? Anyway, you might give these adjectives to these kind of pictures because they display different things. But if you think about it, both of them have the same space on them. If you think about the area, if you think about the volume of space, this 3-dimensional space in which we move around in, the space in each one of these is the same. The reason we describe them with different adjectives, different words, is because the things the space possesses are different. What I mean by this is, in this space, as you can see, there's walls built, there's a curtain, there's a window, there's a chair, there's a few lights, there's a bed. And because all of these things together resemble a bedroom, that's why we called it bedroom. Because there's walls around it, we said that it's inside. This one, because there's trees, because there's the grass, we called it a field. We said that it's outside. The space is the same. If we destroyed the grass, we built walls here, we built a room, we made the wooden floors and put a chair in, we'd also call this one a bedroom. And if we did the exact opposite to this and we destroyed it and we planted a bunch of trees and the grass, we would call this one outside. The space in which we act is the same. And the reason I'm saying this is because both of these are consciousness. If you think about the space as consciousness, It's all just one. And this is why, a lot of spiritual people say the theory of oneness. I'm trying not to be super spiritual here. It never really made any sense to me. But this kind of topic explains exactly why we have our brains give us the thoughts which we're getting. It's because we have assembled the wrong kind of furniture in our space. If you think of this space as the consciousness which we all possess, the space is the same just as the consciousness is the same. The only thing that differs is the things we assemble into it, is the furniture, is, like the trees even, and the field and everything that is within the space. And that is our experiences. That's our genetics also. I'm not going to write everything out, but pretty much everything that is different about me and you. It's our bodies, it's our minds, it's our experiences, it's our memories, it's our genetics, and everything we can say which makes us different. The only reason we act differently is because our consciousness observes different furnitures. Our space possesses different furnitures inside of it, and that makes the space function differently. So the reason this matters so much, and the reason this is what determines all of your thoughts essentially, is because imagine if, let's say, when you were a kid, you had trouble sleeping at night, and you had trouble sleeping at night, so you installed a light in there, like one of these lamps. But what you realize nowadays is that you don't really need that lamp. It doesn't serve a purpose anymore, so you're going to get rid of that lamp. In the same exact way, let's say you're a child and you get bullied at school, and you start giving yourself these kind of thoughts, which say that I'm ugly. This thought isn't a bug, it's a feature. You're getting this thought because you're constantly putting yourself out there to other kids, and the kids start making fun of you. So now your brain tells you, I'm ugly, because if you think that you're ugly, you won't put yourself in situations where you can be judged. Because you understood that, I get judged negatively, so I don't want to get myself in situations where I can be judged. So your brain starts telling you that you're ugly. If we continue on with this metaphor, it installs pieces of furniture. These can be experiences, these could be coping mechanisms, this can be literally anything that changes the way we think. Because now, fundamentally, our brain is wired differently. Every single time we have an opportunity to put ourselves out there, to go into public, to order, to pay at the cashier that actually doesn't have a robot there, it actually has a person there. Every time we interact with someone and we have the opportunity to get rejected, our brain will start throwing these kind of thoughts at us, saying that we're ugly because we had the previous experience, e.g. the furniture there, which, served its purpose back then, but doesn't anymore. And this is exactly what happened with Aaron back then. This is what I told him, back in school, he was bullied a bit, and he was, told to do this and that and made fun of, and it wasn't a good experience for him. And even though he's clearly not that person anymore, he's still getting these thoughts. Why is that? It's because he didn't go through this. He didn't observe these thoughts. This is what 99% of people do, and this is why everyone's fucking retarded. It's because you identify with the thought. You don't have this separation between your mind and you as the observer. You are one, and that's a problem. You're different. You're not one. Okay, you're not your thoughts. You're not your mind. If you keep identifying with, I'm ugly, and you go through life, and then you don't go up to the cashier, you don't go up to the cute girl, you don't put yourself out there, you don't call people on the phone, you don't cold call people, you're never going to get rejected, which, is partly success because that's what your brain wired for, but you're not going to get what you want because rejection is a part of life. And, I could give you a bunch of different examples. It could be the same with fitness. It could be the same with literally anything. You could get these negative thoughts, these self-deprecating thoughts, and you could keep identifying with them. And it's partly success because now you're not getting rejected. Now you're not being put into awkward, uncomfortable, painful situations. But the problem is you're never going to grow. And that's the reason you've watched this video so far. It's because you want to grow. So you have to understand that in your room, hypothetically, your room being your mind, in that space, you've installed pieces of furniture which, serve their purpose back then. They're there for a reason, but you maybe even forgot about them. And they're running your life right now. There's a picture on your wall which you don't even know about, yet it puts you in a bad mood every time you look at it. I hope this metaphor is still understandable for you. I'm dragging it on a bit, but I really do hope that you understand this and that it puts a bit of light onto the situation. So what you have to do is to understand that these pieces of furniture, you have to question, why is that there? Why am I thinking this? And that becomes very easy once you start to observe your thoughts constantly, once you start to build this pattern of behavior where you start to think of your thoughts as separate from yourself. If you're just watching your thoughts and you're like, I got the thought that I'm feeling hot right now, maybe I should open the window. That's already so much different than I'm hot. You understand the difference. Although that's not a detrimental thought to have, it's just in principle, it's just such a different thought pattern saying that I feel this way or I'm having this thought rather than saying that I am. It's so much different. Even if we take another example and we're like, Peter's such a dickhead, and we just think about it for a second, we're like, I'm thinking Peter's a dickhead right now. I'm feeling very, very envious or very, very disheartened by Peter. You can start thinking about it now, because now it's not just an absolute. Now you're like, why do I think that like that? Did he actually do something to upset me? Why do I feel upset by that? Is what he did objectively wrong? Is it just that he's doing something that someone else did in my past who was a dickhead? Is he just reminding me of something in my past? Or is he actually, worthy of being judged as a dickhead? Saying that Peter is a dickhead, you can't really do anything with that. Once you've observed the thought and you've actually, taken the distance and you've stepped into type 2 thinking instead of type 1, and you made the distance between the observer and your mind, then you can start evaluating it. Then you can write a pros and cons list. Just like a scientist, you can have this hypothesis of this being true, and you can think about it. You can have this experiment, and you can be like, wait, hold on, is that actually true? Is it actually true that Peter's a dickhead? Is it actually true that I'm ugly? Is it actually true that I don't deserve love? You can write out the positives, the things that would actually prove this to be true, but most of the time, if you're already becoming cognizant and you start evaluating a thought, you'll find that it's not really true. Just evaluating it once won't entirely erase this, because, you can't just change a belief like that. But step 3 is replacing it, and that's exactly what your mind will do once it's found this evaluation to be absolutely untrue. You being ugly, or your negative thought that you've been having, has probably been untrue for a while, probably for years now, yet you've never really gotten to evaluate it. So that's the reason this is so important. But you might be asking, why now? If my subconscious has known that it's untrue, why did it let me have these thoughts time and time again? If I came to the evaluation and that's all I needed to do to replace it, why didn't I do this automatically? Well, this is kind of how your brain works. If you think about driving or even martial arts or the learning process of anything, it's mostly based on repetitions. There's very, very good science to show us that the biggest thing is reps over time. So the more times you can do something in the shortest amount of time period, the faster you will ingrain this thought pattern or this, movement pattern or anything realistically that your brain can learn into your brain. So for example, if I was a martial artist, I would have this boxing bag and I would be kicking it. I'd be kicking it again and kicking it again and kicking it again until I've mastered this kind of kick. You might be like, wait a minute, that's physical activity. This is very different than just, getting into these thoughts of evaluating our own thoughts. But in a way, it's not. All you're doing is firing neurons in your brain. And if you can strengthen the belief that this is important for you and you keep doing it and keep doing it, it will get ingrained into your mind. Just like driving a car, for instance, flicking on the indicator, it will become second nature for you once you've done it a bunch of times. Maybe the best example is just like you learned to have this thought in the first place, just like your brain learned to, wait a minute, we're getting judged, we're getting made fun of, we're getting laughed at. If I keep telling myself that I'm ugly, I won't be this, because I won't be going into these situations anymore. Just like your brain learned this and started pumping you with these kind of thoughts, you can unlearn it also. If you tell your brain time and time again that this is not who we are anymore, if you find evidence of that not being who you are anymore, and if you state your case so compellingly that your brain has no other option than to believe you, you will forget. You will unlearn that kind of behavior. Going back to this metaphor, you will get rid of that piece of furniture that's been holding you back. So all in all, the 99% of this is just first of all observing your thoughts, becoming more mindful. I'm going to say the boring advice which you knew was coming. Meditation is probably the best thing you can do in regards of becoming more mindful. Just starting with 2 minutes a day is amazing, but working your way up to 20 minutes every single day is probably the best thing you can do. Your decisions that you make in life will increase so much. You will be so much smarter. That I struggle to even find the words. I think it's the ST habit. Once you become a bit more mindful and you just become cognizant of this, of maybe I should actually make distance between the observer and my mind. And maybe every single time I feel something or I have a thought, I shouldn't be telling myself that I am that feeling or that thought. If you can nail these things, you will start to observe much more, and that will allow you to evaluate your thoughts. This is like picking and choosing your thoughts. When you go to the supermarket, you don't just go up to the Granny Smith apples and chuck all of them into your basket. You're like, wait a minute, I only want the prettiest ones. I'm going to look at these and, I like that one. I'm going to put it into my basket. I like that one. I'm going to put that into my basket as well. It's the same thing with thoughts. You're going to realize that most of the thoughts you're having aren't actually serving you in any way. Now, before you evaluate, it is important to observe them, because even if you don't think on the surface that they're important, they probably are. However, it is your duty to confirm this. It is your duty to be like, hold on, I understand that this thought has my best intentions at hand. I understand that this, maybe in a funny way, even served me in the past. But this just simply isn't the case anymore. This is not something that I'd like to uphold. That's when you get into evaluation, and once you've evaluated the thoughts and you've come to the logical conclusion that this just isn't who we are anymore, and you've genuinely convinced your brain and changed your belief, you will logically replace it over time. That's how to change your thoughts and to erase negative self-talk.